What's up, people? I don't talk about the Broncos that much on this channel because, I'm Seahawks Brendan Nelson at the end of the day, right? I'm aware that what Denver does this year is hugely significant to the Seahawks because of the draft situation, but I generally don't talk a lot about what the Broncos are doing in videos. Sometimes I do it in stream because people ask. And, of course, what the Broncos are doing this year merits discussion, not just because of the draft picks, but there's also some aspects of wondering, did we do the right thing when we decided to trade Wilson to the Broncos? And how Denver does this year is going to be very informative as to that. So I just generally choose to not talk about them that much. I have enough going on with this team. It's takes a lot of time to just cover one team. So I kept the Denver discussions on this channel to a minimum in general. But I think this sequence of events warrants a discussion here because I think things have just changed pretty drastically here with these Broncos. I spent most of this offseason, even though I didn't fully understand the hype, I believe the Broncos were going to be a pretty good team. I thought they were going to win 10 games. I thought they were going to make the playoffs unless they got really unlucky. I was aware of some of the issues they may have. I wasn't impressed by their head coaching hire. I wasn't impressed by their offensive line, really. I didn't think it was that much better than what we had, maybe not even better, period. But I did believe that team was going to be good, and I did believe that we were probably in line with getting a pick in the low to mid 20s with the Denver selection. And then the season starts, and you see that Nathaniel Hackett might be really, really bad. And I'm still kind of in that mode of, well, he has to get at least a little better than this. The Broncos have an insane home field advantage that can carry them in some games they would otherwise have no chance in, which we've actually kind of seen a couple times already this year. And their defense looked like it was at least going to be good. So I still believe this team was going to have a winning record and probably make the playoffs. But I think it's time to start turning the page on that assumption, at least, because most of you guys already know, but Denver running back, the starting running back, Javonte Williams, is now out for the season. He's their best running back by a long shot, out for the year with a massive knee injury. And while we're at it, sprinkle in Randy Gregory out for 2 to 6 weeks, apparently, with some kind of injury. I think it was a knee. I'm not 100% sure, but same difference as far as we're concerned, right? So Javonte Williams goes down, and the way he had been playing since he arrived in Denver last year, he was looking like one of the future studs at running back in this league. He was looking like he was on pace to be one of the top running backs by the end of this year, maybe the start of next year. He had a good rookie year, 4.4 yards a carry with not great quarterback play. It made all the sense in the world that in 2022 he was going to have a big breakout year. It wasn't necessarily happening exactly the way we were expecting. His yards per attempt were down a little bit even. The only team he really ate against was the Seahawks, and running backs, they do that. Like, that's not necessarily a huge accomplishment. But he had 100 yards, 11 catches. He played a good game. He did lose a fumble, but he showed the kind of player that he can be in the NFL. Since that game, it wasn't great, but he was still productive. He was still grinding. And a big part of what Denver was theoretically going to be able to do with Wilson that we couldn't do these last couple years, and again, I'm speaking theoretically here, was that they would be able to run the ball at an elite clip and have one of the better running games in the league, and that would protect Wilson, that would allow him to throw the ball less, that would allow him to use more play action, and allow him to focus more on making a few big plays rather than grinding the ball down the field, which he really struggles to do sometimes. So now you take away Javonte Williams, and the only guy with any credibility left is Melvin Gordon, who looks very washed up to me. This is a guy who's been in the league for some time now. This is his, God, how many years has he been in the league? This is his 8th year, and he's developed a big fumbling problem. He's fumbled in 5 straight games. and his yards per carry is down to 3.8, which, I mean, he's been down that low before, but ever since he got to Denver, he's been significantly better than that. His only decent game was against Seattle, and he fumbled on the goal line in that game too. So, bottom line here is we have some significant problems in that Denver backfield. They don't have anyone else of note behind Gordon. They signed Latavius Murray yesterday, rather, excuse me, and they've got, I think his name is Mike Boone or Alex Boone or something like that. This is a team that's looking like they're not really going to be able to run the ball. This is a team that looks like they're going to have to lean heavily on the passing attack to carry them throughout the rest of this season. They may hit the trade market trying to find another running back. They may try to tap into an old flame like Pip Lindsay, but it looks bad. And honestly, when you take a look at the offense, just the offense that Wilson has right now around him, you wonder, is this better than what he would have had or had in the past couple years in Seattle? He's got good receivers, but he had good receivers here too, and those good receivers in Denver seem like they drop more passes than ours did. His tight ends, not terribly prolific. They do have their moments, kind of like the ones here. Offensive line doesn't really look better to me. It's better than the Tom Cable offensive lines, but I don't think it's better than the recent Solari offensive lines at all. And honestly, I think that at this point, is the offense that he's running even a little bit better than the offenses he was running under Schottenheimer and Waldron? He has worse coaching, and now, like, his running back room is basically how is this different than those years when Carson would get hurt and Penny would get hurt and his running back would be Marshawn Lynch off the couch, or DJ Dallas, or Travis Homer before he bulked up, excuse me. When I remember this one stretch where his starting running back was like Bryce Brown or some nobody like that way back in 2015, and back then he could deal with it. A little bit harder now. So what is this Denver offense going to do other than just say, okay, Wilson, it's all on you again, just like it was in Seattle. We can't run the ball. Melvin Gordon is washed. By the way, if you add up catches, rushing attempts from regular season and playoffs, Melvin Gordon's right up near 1,900 career touches. So he is past the point where most running backs hit a wall. Well past the point where most running backs hit a wall. So I think he's probably hit that wall and he's just kind of stumbling along now. But how is this better, really? He's got a worse head coach, and I'm not really a Pete Carroll fan. You guys know I'm not a fan of that, but he's better than Nathaniel Hackett. And I'm not just talking about history. I'm not just talking about body of work. No, I'm talking about right now. Like, Nathaniel Hackett looks completely lost. So I'm looking at that Denver offense, and I'm like, are you sure it's better over there than what you had here? You've already lost Tim Patrick, so your wide receiver depth, there was an argument that Denver was going to have much better receiver depth than we did, but meanwhile, KJ Hamler's caught one pass in 4 games. You may as well call him KJ Eskridge. So that's not happening. So yeah, at the end of the day, what's changed? And Randy Gregory, he was having a pretty destructive start to the season. Okay, he had a couple sacks in the first 4 games. He was pummeling quarterbacks. I think he forced 2 fumbles in the first 2 weeks. He had good production in the Raiders game despite getting injured and missing the last part of it. And that's a Denver defense that has been playing really well through 3 games, because the Raiders game was not good. But it was a defense that was really carrying most of the weight. And Randy Gregory was in the conversation for being their best player. If you go to PFF, they have him graded at past 87. They think he's one of the best defensive players in the league. Randy Gregory is right there with Justin Simmons, who is also injured, by the way, and Patrick Surtain II in terms of importance and value to that Denver defense. So the one thing that has that Seattle hasn't had is a really good defense, but If they're going to start missing guys like Gregory and Simmons for extended periods, they may not for much longer. The best offense they played so far this year, they just gave up 32. Well, okay, let's be completely fair here. 25 points too. So, I what bottom line is this: I no longer think it can be assumed that Denver's going to be a winning team this year. And honestly, with losing Javonte Williams, I believe the effect of that loss is significant enough to where I don't think, if I had to predict it right now, this Denver team is going to have a losing record. And we're going to be getting a top 15 pick out of this. You look at their schedule. Okay, their next 4 games, I think they need to run the table going into their bye week. I kind of feel like they need to run the table. And I'm sure they're going to beat the Colts on Thursday at home, Thursday night. Colts are bad. And the Jets, they're bad too. They're getting the Jets at home. They should be able to take care of business there. But Chargers, with all those injuries, good luck. Even Jacksonville on a neutral field, not going to be fun. So you got to run the table here, because after the bye week, it gets really, really not fun. You're going to Tennessee. Tennessee looks like they're back on track. Hosting the Raiders, you might win that one. That one looks good. Carolina looks good. At Baltimore, Chiefs, you play the Chiefs twice in the last 5 games of the year. You've got the Rams, you've got the Chargers again. You've got the Cardinals. The Cardinals are, in this final stretch of 6 games, the Cardinals are pretty easily, I think, the easiest game. Like, you could easily lose your 5 of your last 6 games without doing anything wrong. You could go 1-5 in the last 6 games without necessarily doing anything wrong. It could just happen because of your opposition being so good. So I think Denver needs to run the table going into the bye week, or they're in real trouble. I don't believe they're going to fire Hackett midseason. Most teams don't do that, and they certainly don't do it with a guy they just hired. Granted, the Waltons have enough money to fire a head coach like that, but most teams don't do that. And the only guy on their staff they could promote with any coaching experience is Dom Capers. Yeah, if that happens, Wilson might just force his way back to Seattle to get away from that. I'm not really a big fan of Pete Carroll right now, but this is showing you how much worse it can really get. So, hey, look, there have been people coming to my videos over the last several months who have been talking about, hey, we might get a really good pick from Denver. It might be in the teens, might be in the top 10 even. I wasn't really believing it, but I think things are breaking, and I don't mean that, and I know that sounds like I'm making a joke. I'm not. Things are breaking towards that being on the table here. If the Broncos lose even one of these next 4 games, I think they are looking at a real uphill battle. They have too many tough games after their bye week. They have too many opponents that are capable of just blowing them off the field. And you're not going to have games where your defense allows you to hang around and win at the end, like you did against Houston and San Fran. It's not going to work like that against Kansas City. It's not going to work like that against the Rams. Really, it probably won't even work like that against the Chargers. So, hey, I said yesterday in a video, don't root for the Seahawks to lose just because you want that high pick. It's not worth it. But it's worth it here. No skin off my nose if Denver loses. Doesn't matter to me at all. I'm a Seahawks fan, so hell yeah, root for the Broncos to lose if you want to. Okay? I'm not into tanking, but I am into watching a team whose draft picks I own lose. So, if you want to root for somebody to lose this year for draft picks for the Seahawks, instead of doing it for the Seahawks, do it for the Broncos. All right? Best of both worlds. Be happy. All right. We'll see where this goes. But right now, I'm looking at this Broncos team. I'm seeing an offense that has kind of fallen apart to the point where I don't even think it's any better than what we had with Wilson in recent years. And their defense is still good, but they're starting to lose some of the things that was making them good. So there you go. Maybe I'll check in like a month to see how Denver's doing. Maybe I'll check in around November after they played their next 4 games. But right now, I'm feeling pretty good about owning those picks. See you guys later.